Section 1 of Food Preparedness by Dr. Albert. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Section 1. Food Preparedness. An adequate food supply and a careful study of diets are the basis of national well-being. Education, medical attention, economies, and recreation are of considerable importance, but each and all depend upon proper nourishment of the physical body. Until recent years, little or no attention has been paid by most people to matters of food and diet. The first serious agitation in this country does not date beyond the memory of those who read this. I refer to the time when the question of a pure food law began to be seriously considered by the people and their representatives in Congress. After several years of fighting against the unscrupulous and greedy food interests, our present Food and Drugs Act became a law in June 1906. Since that year, more progress has been made in the study of foods and diets than in all the time preceding it. The Bureau of Chemistry of the United States Department of Agriculture, with its branch laboratories throughout the country, has made it unprofitable to adulterate and misbrand food products. The public hardly appreciates the great service rendered by this branch of government inspection. It should be said, however, to the credit of the large majority of food manufacturers and dealers, that they are jealous of their reputation to supply the public with honest and correctly branded foods. The public knows what to expect of foods bearing certain labels. They buy these foods with confidence in their purity. Several factors are instrumental in calling the public's attention to a serious study of foods. First, the controversy preceding the enactment of the Pure Food Law. Second, the adulterations discovered and published as a result of enforcing the law. Third, the rise in prices, partially a result of the crusade for better foods. Not until there occurred an appreciable rise in prices did the majority of our people begin to pay serious attention to foods. As long as the supply seemed abundant and prices reasonable, very few people paid any attention to matters of diet. That the time is at hand for most serious and earnest study of our food problems is a statement which surely does not admit of debate. If, under ordinary circumstances, such a study involves a variety of factors which make the problem complicated, what is to be said about the present most extraordinary conditions? And what about the conditions of the immediate future? A few years ago, the person who was not writing or talking about efficiency was not up to date. Efficiency found its way into every conceivable nook and corner of our educational, professional, industrial, and agricultural life. But lately, another word has been coined: preparedness. It is not an exaggeration to say that with characteristic American enthusiasm, we promptly proceeded to lose our heads over this new word, and this very fact shows one thing more plainly than anything else, namely, our unpreparedness. Even now, after the preliminary excitement has partially subsided, the word preparedness to most people means soldiers, guns, cannon, cruisers, submarines, airplanes, fortifications, and explosives. Those whose thoughts on preparedness penetrated a little deeper discovered that it includes doctors, nurses, hospitals, and medical supplies. By the time these words are in print, it is hoped everybody who is capable of a serious thought will realize that just as important and vital as anything else pertaining to preparedness is the question of food. Feeding and fighting are two inseparable terms. A minute's reflection should suffice to show the utter uselessness of any scheme of preparedness that does not include an elaborate study of the food problem. The time is at hand when we, each of us, must think and act seriously. Preparedness must have a personal meaning. There can be no national preparedness without individual preparedness. The first step in patriotism is personal preparedness. There can be no preparedness without health, and health is impossible without correct personal habits and adequate food. National preparedness resolves itself, therefore, into correct living, which in turn is based upon proper nourishment, not only for today but for tomorrow. At ordinary times and under ordinary circumstances, questions relating to an adequate diet involve no great complications, but circumstances are most unusual. The supply of food seems limited, something which we as a wasteful nation never before believed possible. The one factor which has helped more than any other to bring us to our senses about our food is its cost. Money talks, and food prices are fairly shrieking at us at every turn, a state which has a serious meaning to everybody alike. The easiest way to interest most people in any kind of a problem is to force their attention to the question of cost. But let us come back to preparedness. I can serve my country best by being prepared personally and by helping others to a similar condition. The person with all kinds of advice and criticisms who is not personally prepared nor doing anything to help others presents an argument without force. The importance of food to personal preparedness is not debatable. It is an axiom. Teachers, preachers, doctors, and others who come in contact with the public should study foods and diets. Physicians particularly can be of great service. There is great need of instruction in food values, dietetics, and personal hygiene. Prices tell their own story and are educating the public in matters of food and diet, and the physician can add scientific argument to that of prices. Teachers of all grades, from kindergarten to university, should be required to study foods. An outline for study, including a list of books and other literature of the subject, should be provided. There are parents who are doing themselves an injustice and who are neglecting a principal duty of parenthood by their indifference toward their own and their children's food problems. Many people are unprepared because of circumstances over which they have no control. But many more are unprepared mainly because of indifference and preventable ignorance. I use the term preventable ignorance because anyone really in earnest has little difficulty in becoming well informed on matters of food and diet by making use of our modern library facilities, attending lectures, and by reading journals and magazines. A word of caution is necessary at this point. Much that is said or written is misleading or untrue. Our daily newspapers often contain much misinformation. But it should be remembered that our newspapers are not scientific journals where accuracy counts most. They are rather the medium for the exchange of ideas where people express their opinions. End of section 1.